So welcome back again, and this is the Azure Identity Access and Security. So we will talk about all services identity related. So what Azure provides, hybrid identity management, identity as a service, identity management, and security in production. So this is all about the Microsoft Azure security, right? So what we're going to learn here, Azure Directory Services in Azure, like including Microsoft Entra ID and Microsoft Entra Domain Services, method in authentication method in Azure, including single sign-on SSO, multi-factor authentication MFA, and passwordless authentication. How external identities and guest access in Azure will Azure allowed to access for the guest users, and describe the Microsoft intra conditional access, and describe Azure role-based access control RBAC, which is the most used for the solutions and companies and other for the customers. Concept of zero trust and purpose of the defense in the depth model. And what is Microsoft Defender for the cloud? Okay, so this is what we're going to cover in this area. So, Azure Identity Access and Security Services and Tools, directory services in Azure, authentication method and access control, zero trust and defense in depth. So this is what is all about. So the first one is Microsoft Intra ID. Okay. Let me go to the next tab. So Microsoft Intra ID. This one. So Microsoft Intra ID is a directory services that enables you to sign in and access both Microsoft Cloud applications as cloud application that you develop. So Microsoft Intra ID can also help you maintain your on-premises Active Directory deployment. So for on-premises environment, Active Directory running on Windows Server provides an identity and access management services that's managed by your organization. Microsoft Entra ID is Microsoft cloud-based identity and access management service with Microsoft Entra ID. You can control the identity accounts, but Microsoft ensures that the service is available globally. If you have worked with Active Directory, Microsoft Entra ID will be familiar to you. So it's same like Active Directory, which you earlier were using on the on-premises side. Okay. So securing identities on-premises with Active Directory, Microsoft does not monitor sign-in attempts. Okay. So when anyone connect Active Directory with Microsoft Entra ID, Microsoft can help protect you by detecting suspicious sign-in attempts at no extra cost, right? Same way, if we can say Microsoft Entra ID can detect sign-in attempts from unexpected location or unknown devices. So this is what it's all about. So who use Microsoft Entra ID? This is used by most of the IT administrator. Administrators can be used Microsoft Entra ID to control access to application and resources based on their business requirement. App developers. So developers can use Microsoft Entra ID to provide a standard-based approach for adding functionality to application that they build, such as adding SSO functionality to an application or enabling an app to work with a user existing credentials. Users, the end user, you can say. User can manage their identities and take maintenance actions like self-service password reset. Online service subscribers like Microsoft 365, Microsoft Office 365, Azure, and Microsoft Dynamics CRM online subscribers are already using Microsoft Entra ID to authenticate into their account. So, if we talk about Microsoft Entra ID, what it does: authentication, single sign-on, application management, and device management. So this is the four type of, right? So this is what is all about, and device management. Okay. So next topic is Microsoft Intra Domain Services. So I'm talking about this one, right? So what is Microsoft intra-domain services? So Microsoft intra-domain services is a service that provides managed domain services such as the domain join, group policy, lightweight directory access protocol, LDAP, and Kerberos and NTLM authentication. Just like Microsoft Entra IT lets you use directory services without having to maintain the infrastructure supporting it. So with Microsoft intra-domain services, anyone can get the benefit of domain services without the need to deploy, manage, and patch domain controller DCs in the cloud. There's no maintenance of the domain controllers. A Microsoft intra-domain services managed domain lets you run legacy application in the cloud that can't use modern authentication method, or where you don't want directory lookups to always go back to an on-premises ADDS environment. You can always lift and shift those legacy applications from your on-premises environment into a managed domain without needing to manage the ADDS environment in the cloud. So Microsoft intra-domain services integrates with your existing Microsoft intra tenant. This integration lets users sign in into services and application connected to the managed domain using their existing credentials. You can also use existing groups and user account to secure access to the resources. These features provides a smoother lift and shift of an on-premises resource into the Azure. Okay. So Azure authentication method is single sign-on, multi-factor authentication, Microsoft Entra multi-factor authentication, passwordless authentication, Microsoft Authenticator application, and FIDO security. So this is what we little bit talk about here, right? So everything is here. You can see here, you know. So authentication is the process of establishing the identity of a person, service, or device. It requires the person, service, or devices to provide some type of credential to prove of who they are. Authentication is likely presenting ID when you are traveling. It doesn't confirm that you are tagged. It just proves that you are who you say you are. Azure supports multiple authentication methods, including standard password, single sign-on, SSO, multi-factor authentication, and passwordless authentication. Right. So, what is single SSO? Single sign-on. So single sign-on SSO enables a user to sign in one time and use that credential to access multiple resources and applications from different providers. For SSO to work, the different application and provides must trust the initial authenticator. More identities mean more password to remember and change. Password policies can vary among applications. As complexity requirement increases, it becomes increasingly difficult for users to remember them. The more password a user has to manage, the greater the risk of credential-related security incident. Okay. So considering the process of managing all those identities, more strain is, places and help desk as they deal with the account, lockout, and password request. If your user leaves an organization, tracking down all those identities and ensuring they are disabled can be challenging. If an identity is overlooked, this might allow access when it should have been eliminated. So with SSO, you need to remember only one ID and one password. Access across application is granted to single identity that is tiered to the user, which simplifies the secure model. So as user changes roles or leave an organization, access is tied to a single identity. This change greatly reduces the effort needed to the change or disable account. Using SSO for accounts makes it easier for users to manage their identities for the IT managed user. Single sign-on is only as secure as the initial authenticator because the subsequent connection are all based on the security of the initial authenticator. So let's talk about what is multi-factor authentication. So multi-factor authentication is the process of prompting a user for an extra from a factor or identification during the sign-in process. So MF helps protect against a password compromising in situation where the password was compromised, but the second factor was not. So think about how you sign in into website, email, or online services. After entering your username and password, have needed to enter a code that was sent to your phone? If so, you use a multi-factor authentication to sign in. So multi-factor authentication provides additional security for your identities by requiring two or more elements to fully authenticate. Right. So something the user known the might to challenge a question. Okay. So this kind of things. Okay. So this is what is all about. Your Microsoft. Right. So what's Microsoft authentication? So multi-factor authentication is a Microsoft service that provides multi-factor authentication capabilities. Microsoft Entra multi-factor authentication enables users to choose an additional form of authentication during sign-in, such as a phone call or a mobile app application. So you see, whenever you filling some form, you registering yourself or creating a user ID with the Microsoft, you get these options very easily. So let's little bit talk about passwordless authentication. So a feature like MFA are a great way to secure organization, but users often get frustrated with the additional security layer on the top of having to remember their password. So people are more likely to comply when it's easy and convenient to do so. So passwordless authentication methods are more convenient because the password is removed and replaced with something you have. Plus, something you are, here's something you know. So passwordless authentication needs to be set up on a device or before it can work. For example, your computer is something you have. Once it's been registered or enrolled, Azure now knows that it's associated with you. Now that the computer is known, once you provide something you know, or is such as PIN or fingerprint, you can be authenticated without using a password. So each organization has different needs when it comes to authentication. Microsoft Global Azure and Azure Government offer the following three password authentication options integrated with the Microsoft. Windows Hello for Business, Microsoft Authenticator app, and FIDOS to security. So Windows Hello for Business, article information works that have their own designated Windows PCs, kind of biometric PIN credentials. Okay, so this is the basic operating system kind of level of security, you can say. Microsoft Authenticator app we have where you can register your phone with your password with your IDs to log in with the passwordless authentication. And last one is the FIDO security. So FIDO 2 means fast identity online. Alliances helps to promote open authentication standard and reduce the use of password as a form of authentication. Okay. So this is all about okay. The user can register at the and then select a FIDO security key at the sign-in interface as their main mean of authenticate of the FIDO security keys are typically USB devices. So these are as seen in using kind of in the banking or you doing some big transfer. That's it. So describe now we have to talk about Azure external identities, right? Like Azure additional identities. So business to business B2B collaboration with external users by letting them use their preferred identity to sign in. So partners, vendors, suppliers under collaboration, and you have to give your access, and this is your tenant ID, and under your tenant ID, you have Active Directory. Okay, so you can create a password for your partners, vendors, and suppliers. Right. So this kind of things is we have to talk about here. So externally identifiers may sound similar to single sign-on with the external identities. Suppose I mean they're not belong. These IDs not belong to the company IDs, or you can say the particular tenant IDs, company IDs, but they have access of the some resources. So this is what. So digitally they identify and manage from the for their vendors. So this is what it's all about, Azure AD to BTC, Azure AD BTC talented. So business to business collaboration, B2B direct connect is there, Microsoft Azure Active Directory business to the B2C people. Okay. So conditional access is a tool that Microsoft Entra ID uses to allow or deny access to resources based on identity signal. So these signals include who the user is, where the user is, and what device the user is requesting access from. So conditional access help administrator empower user to be productive wherever or whenever. Part of the organization assets as well. So when can I use conditional access? Require multi-factor authentication to access an application depending on the requester role, location, or network. For example, you could require MFA for administrator, but not regular user or for people connecting from outside your corporate network. So it is required access to service only though through approved client applications. For example, you could limit which email applications are able to connect to your email services. So this is the basic point basically it's used for the conditional access policy. All right. Great. Okay, next we have to discuss about a little bit Azure role-based access, RBAC. So RBAC is very important that you see here. So role-based means what the role you are and who you are, and accordingly you have get the access for the particular infra, networks, resources, and services. So cloud, one of the most role-based access control is control each and everything. So it includes a management group, a collection of multiple subscription, a single subscription, a resource group, and a single resources. So if you talk about manage entities, right? Uh, I mean, your role-based access control. So role-based access control is applied to a scope, which is resource or set of resource that is access to apply to, right? So when you assign the honor role to a user at the management group scope, that user can manage everything in all subscription within the management group. When you assign the reader to role to a group at the subscription scope, the member of the group can only view every resource group and resource within the subscription. So as per the subscription, we have to define the roles, administration, honor, viewer, or read only, read and write kind of access. So this kind of accesses basically is there and you can easily create the same way. An Azure RBAC is enforced on any action that is initiated against an Azure resource that passes through Azure Resources Manager. Resource Manager is a management service that provides a way to organize and secure your cloud resources. You typically access resources management from the Azure portal, Azure Cloud Shell, Azure PowerShell, and the Azure CLI. So Azure RBAC doesn't enforce access permission at the application or data level. Application security must be handled by your application. Okay. Zero trust model. So zero trust is a security model that assumes that worst case scenario and protects a resource with that exception. So verify explicitly, use least privilege access. Okay, when is login, when is log out, assume breach. So layers of defense. Okay, so the physical security layer is the first line of the defense of data, application, compute, network, prime, then identification and physical security. So a little bit you have to dig about the Microsoft document as well, okay, and you understand these layers of defense. So I'm not going to much on it because you have to focus on the RBAC and your MFA and SSO. Just three things we need to majorly used in the corporate world, right? Microsoft Defender. So Microsoft Defender for cloud, helps you to detect threats across, right? So Defender for Cloud is a monitoring tool for a security posture management and threat protection. So it's monitor your cloud and on-premises hybrid multi-cloud environment to provide guidance and notification aimed to strengthen your security posture. So Defender for Cloud provides the tools needed to harden your resources, track your security posture, protect against cyber attack, streaming security management. Deployment of Defender for Cloud is easy. It's already native integration to the Azure. So Defender for Cloud is the Azure native services. Many Azure services are monitored and protected without needing any deployment, right? So when necessary, Defender for Cloud and automatically deployed a log analytics agent to gather security-related data. For Azure machines, deployment is handled directly. For a hybrid and multi-cloud environment, Microsoft Defender plans are extended to a non-Azure machines with the help of Azure Arc. So cloud security postures management CSPM features are extended to multi-cloud machines without the need for any agents. So what is the Azure native protections? Azure PaaS services, your Azure data services, your networks also. So related to your allowed source IP addresses, ranges, what is the addresses are and for limit amount of time. So defend your hybrid resources. So different resources running on other cloud as well, Defender for the clouds, Microsoft Defender. So access, secure, and defend. This is what it's majorly work by the Defender. Okay. All right. So continuously assess your and provide the security authentication for the method control. So this is what it monitors by the Defender. So Defender, you can say it's a very, very good tool for the cloud enables. And even you can set your policies accordingly to a standard across your resources, right? Security alerts, describe details of the affected resources, suggest remediation next steps, point some cases, and option to trigger a logic gap in resources. Advanced threat protection is there. Okay. All right. So just try to create these IDs and give the access. So this is what the practice you have to do. And Microsoft Entra ID, how you going to use for the particular organization. So this is what is all about. Troubleshoot feature. It's not created yet, I think. You see here, everything is disabled here. So this is what you have to use to connect your Entra ID over here. Go to the back, or I have to go to all resources. Not created here. Identity. Microsoft Entra Connect Health, Azure AD2BC, B2C tenant. So this is what you need to check with these identities, right? Guest users, how you provide a guest user access, Microsoft Entra domain services, right? Create it. You see this? Networking, administration, synchronization, security setting, and tags. See this? Okay. The DNS name. So it will give me this kind of names. Okay. So you can create your own ID and organization. That's what it's all about. Okay, guys. So thanks for this video. And we will talk about Microsoft Cloud Adoption Framework for Azure. So this is what we are now focusing on the Azure Architect side, right? Microsoft Cloud Adoption Framework. We'll see you on the next video. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.